The doors of the popular beauty salon Adele, located right on Arbat, swung open, and in walked the owner, Angela, like a fresh breeze. Her confident, precise stride echoing through the space as her expensive crocodile leather heels clicked loudly against the floor. A well-groomed and striking woman, Angela was always impeccably dressed, her figure lean and toned. The staff feared her. She was too cold, strict, and demanding. Yet, at the same time, she was fair. Approaching the reception desk, Angela spoke in a firm tone. "Good afternoon, girls. Masha, bring me a cappuccino to my office along with the weekly report. Sveta, what's with your appearance? You're the face of the salon, yet you look like a girl from a cheap brothel. Take off that ridiculous blouse with the outrageous neckline and wipe off that tasteless raspberry lipstick immediately. Ira, why is the client sitting there bored, waiting? Offer her coffee, a fresh magazine. Get it together, girls. We need to maintain our reputation to stay afloat." After delivering her usual set of instructions, Angela walked into her office. She shut the door, settled comfortably into her favorite leather chair, and slipped her feet out of her heels under the desk. Oh God, what a bliss! Finally I can relax. I've been running around all day. My feet and back are aching. I have no strength left. But it's fine. I'll have my coffee, check the reports, and then head home. Her days were scheduled to the minute. By the age of 43, Angela had achieved almost everything she had ever dreamed of. She owned 2 prestigious salons, drove a luxury foreign car of the latest model, and lived in a stylishly furnished apartment. Wasn't this happiness? What more could she want? Her employees envied her. She could see it in their eyes. They thought she had simply been lucky in life. Fools! They had no idea what lay behind that so-called luck. Angela wasn't the daughter of a millionaire. She came from a humble family. Her mother was a biology teacher, her father an ordinary bus driver. They lived like everyone else, barely making ends meet. As a child, she had dreamed of escaping the dullness and poverty. It pained her to see her mother's hands, raw and bloody from endless washing, and her eyes strained from stitching clothes under the dim lamp in the evenings. Paying for university was out of the question. There was simply no money. So Angela enrolled in a manicure course. At the time, it was a novelty. She became deeply engrossed in the craft, performing every task with such precision and care that she soon built a loyal clientele at the salon where she worked. Her greatest asset was her ability to listen, engage in conversation at the right moments, and, most importantly, keep secrets. She realized that women often came for manicures out of boredom. They needed to talk, to vent about their troubles, or to seek advice without too many people knowing. Over time, Angela did the math. There wasn't much money in this line of work. A large chunk of her earnings went toward renting a space and paying taxes. So she decided to start working from home. She set up a small station in her bedroom, bought supplies, and slowly but surely, business picked up. She worked like Cinderella, day and night, saving every penny, cutting back on personal expenses as much as possible. And after 5 years of grueling effort, she finally managed to buy an old, run-down building in a prime location. Another year went into renovations. She started by hiring her best friend, Alina, and together they mastered additional skills: hairstyling, makeup. For the first 6 months, they worked purely on enthusiasm, reinvesting every penny into the business. But gradually, the salon gained traction and the staff grew. Women loved coming to Angela's salon. They knew the team would provide quick, high-quality, professional service. As a boss, Angela demanded that her employees treat every client with politeness and respect, regardless of their financial status. No rudeness, but no excessive flattery either. The discipline in the salon was strict. Skipping work or slacking off could cost a bonus or even a job. With such a demanding job and an intense lifestyle, Angela had no time to think about marriage or relationships. There had been brief affairs here and there, but nothing serious. She was like a hamster on a wheel, too busy to count the years. Yet, deep down, she longed for warmth and a cozy home. Just then, the door to her office opened. Her secretary entered, carrying a fragrant cup of coffee, interrupting Angela's thoughts. "Masha, one more thing. Call an electrician to my place. Something's wrong with the wiring. Have them come around 6 this evening." "Understood, Angela Romanovna. I'll take care of it," Masha replied. That evening, the doorbell rang. Angela had just stepped out of the shower, her cheeks flushed, a towel wrapped around her head. She padded barefoot to the door. "Good evening. You called for an electrician? I'm Misha." The man introduced himself. She stepped aside to let him in and couldn't help but admire him. Tall, muscular, a young heartthrob with jet black hair and piercing brown eyes that seemed to see right through her. A long-forgotten warmth surged through her body like an electric current. In half an hour, the problem was fixed. Clearly this man had golden hands. Angela invited the young man for tea. He hesitated. "Oh no, thank you. I really shouldn't. I need to get going," he mumbled. "Oh, come on, Misha. Don't offend a lady. I'm not dragging you to the altar after all," she laughed. The guy was completely flustered and finally agreed. Angela was a skilled psychologist. Years of working with people had paid off. Little by little, he stopped feeling awkward and they started talking. It turned out that Misha was from the suburbs and lived with his grandfather. He had never known his mother. After giving birth, she left him with the elderly couple and supposedly went off to earn a living. At first, she sent postcards and helped a little, but eventually she vanished without a trace. The boy grew up with his grandparents, who became both mother and father to him. Life had been hard. One couldn't go far on a pension, but he was still grateful they had taken him in instead of sending him to an orphanage. Recently, he had found a job at a small company called Handyman for Hire. He worked 24-hour shifts every 3 days and commuted from the suburbs by train. Angela couldn't take her eyes off Mikhail, realizing she had fallen in love. Rationally, she knew he was too young, had nothing to offer her, and wasn't a suitable match. But she couldn't help herself. She had never felt such a whirlwind of emotions, not even in her youth. Of course, Misha was flattered by the attention of such a wealthy and stunning woman. He had only seen women like her on magazine covers. But he hid his emotions, feeling intimidated. Angela saw that this fortress wouldn't be conquered with a direct assault, so she decided to act slowly and carefully. To start, she casually invited him over for the weekend, saying she'd show him the city. 2 days flew by in a blur. They visited exhibitions of modern artists, museums, and a concert at the Philharmonic. They dined in an expensive restaurant, yet everything remained warm, effortless, and friendly. The spark of desire lingered in the air, but Angela didn't let it ignite. Too soon, she thought. Slowly, they grew closer, spending more and more time together, talking for hours. Despite their significant age gap, Misha wasn't some naive boy. He spoke like a responsible, serious man. The young man was overwhelmed by the emotions, the new experiences, the luxury of her life, and the intoxicating presence of such a breathtaking woman. He could no longer keep his distance. The night before the weekend, Mikhail called Angela. "I have a surprise for you. I may not be able to give you fur coats and diamonds just yet, but I want to take you on a date like no other. I bet you've never had one like this before. Dress in something sporty. We're leaving at 4 in the morning. No objections accepted." What a nightmare! Dragging myself somewhere at such an ungodly hour. I just wanted to sleep in, Angela thought irritably, but she couldn't bring herself to refuse him. Misha took her to the river. He set up a tent, built a fire, and cast his fishing rods. They sipped fragrant thyme tea from a thermos, watching the sunrise. A light mist floated over the water, nightingales sang, frogs croaked somewhere in the distance, and the firewood crackled in the flames. Angela closed her eyes in bliss. In the mad chase for money in the big city, she had forgotten that such simple moments of absolute happiness and serenity even existed. They spent the entire day fishing, cooking a rich, aromatic fish soup, and in the evening, drinking mulled wine. That night, under the witness of a starry sky, they had their first passionate night together. From then on, they were inseparable. They had a grand wedding. The girls at the salon watched the owner and her young husband with barely concealed envy, whispering in the smoking area, "Can you believe Angela's luck? She's got money, a thriving business, and now she's snagged herself a young, drop-dead gorgeous husband. Unreal!" The newlywed wife, of course, noticed all of this, and she became fiercely jealous of Misha. She often threw fits over nothing, even though he gave her no reason to. He remained the same humble and loyal man, completely devoted to his queen. But one thing deeply troubled him, Angela's high status. He felt like a freeloader, a kept man, and it gnawed at him. Eventually, he begged her to give him a job at the salon as a security guard and manager with a decent salary. He worked hard, fixed the malfunctioning security system, and kept everything in order. At last, he felt like he had a real purpose. Angela, on the other hand, spiraled out of control. Every evening when he came home from work, she practically conducted a full inspection. She wasn't even above checking his phone while he was in the shower. Especially in the past month. She saw it, she felt it. Misha had changed. He had become distant, withdrawn, staying late more often. And then, to her horror, Angela found a long, dark hair in their bathroom. She drove herself crazy, waking up in the middle of the night to check if he was still beside her. Unable to take it anymore, she went to see her old, trusted friend Galia, bringing a bottle of wine. She burst into tears the moment she stepped through the door. Galia listened and then said, "All right, why are you torturing yourself? I don't get it. Just check on him, like in those shows on TV. Set up cameras around the house and tell him you're going on a business trip for a couple of days. Say a shipment of paint got delayed or something. Then come stay with me. We'll find out everything." Angela's tears dried up instantly, and she threw her arms around her friend's neck. Angela invited the young man over for tea. He hesitated, mumbling, "Oh, no, thank you. I really shouldn't. I have to go." "Oh, come on, Misha, don't offend a lady. I'm not asking you to marry me after all." She laughed. Completely embarrassed, the young man eventually agreed. Angela was a skilled psychologist. Years of working with people had taught her how to approach anyone. Little by little, Misha stopped feeling shy and they started talking. It turned out that Misha was from the suburbs and lived with his grandfather. He had never known his mother. She abandoned him with his grandparents right after giving birth, supposedly leaving to earn a living elsewhere. At first, she sent some money and postcards, but then she disappeared without a trace. So the boy grew up with his grandparents, who became both mother and father to him. Life was tough. Their pension barely covered expenses. But he was still grateful they never gave him up to an orphanage. Recently, Misha had started working for a small handyman service, husband for an hour, working shifts of 24 hours on, 3 days off, and commuting from the suburbs by train. Angela couldn't take her eyes off Misha, realizing she was falling in love. She knew he was much younger, had nothing to offer her, and wasn't exactly a suitable match. But she couldn't help herself. She had never felt such a whirlwind of emotions, not even in her youth. Misha, of course, was flattered by the attention of such a wealthy, stunning woman. He had only seen women like her on magazine covers. But he didn't let it show. In fact, he was a little intimidated. Angela saw that this fortress wouldn't fall easily, so she decided to act carefully and slowly. First, she casually invited him to visit on the weekend, saying she'd show him around the city. The 2 days flew by. They visited exhibitions of modern artists, museums, and even attended a concert at the Philharmonic. They dined in an expensive restaurant, yet everything remained warm, relaxed, and friendly. Desire sparkled in the air, but Angela didn't let it ignite. Too soon, she decided. Gradually, they grew closer, spending more and more time together, having long conversations. Despite the huge age gap, Misha wasn't just some naive boy. He spoke like a responsible, serious man. Misha was overwhelmed by emotions, by new experiences, by this luxurious life, and by the presence of such an incredible woman beside him. He could no longer keep his distance. The day before the weekend, he called Angela. "I have a surprise for you. I can't buy you furs and diamonds yet, but I want to take you on a date like no other. Dress in something sporty. We're leaving at 4 in the morning. No objections." What a nightmare! Dragging myself somewhere at this hour. I just wanted to sleep in, Angela thought irritably. But she couldn't bring herself to say no. Misha took her to a river, set up a tent, lit a campfire, and cast his fishing rods. They sipped fragrant thyme tea from a thermos, watching the sun rise. Mist hovered over the water, nightingales sang, frogs croaked in the distance, and firewood crackled in the flames. Angela closed her eyes in pleasure. In her frantic chase for money in the big city, she had forgotten such simple moments of absolute happiness and peace. They spent the entire day fishing and cooking a delicious fish soup. In the evening, they drank mulled wine. And that night, under the starry sky, they gave in to their passion for the first time.
After that, they never parted. They had a lavish wedding. All the women at the salon watched Angela and her young, handsome husband with open envy, whispering in the smoking area. Wow, Angela really hit the jackpot. She's got money, a business, and now a young hottie too. Unbelievable. Angela noticed everything. And she was terribly jealous of Misha, often picking fights over nothing. Even though he never gave her any reason to doubt him, he remained the same simple, humble guy who saw no one but his queen. The only thing that really bothered Misha was his wife's high status. He felt like a kept man, a freeloader, and it weighed on him. Eventually, he begged Angela to hire him at her salon as a security guard and manager with a decent salary. He worked hard, fixed long-standing issues, kept order, and finally felt useful. But Angela, instead of calming down, became even worse. She practically searched him when he came home, scrolled through his phone while he showered. Lately, it had gotten unbearable. She could feel that something was off. He had become distant, secretive, often coming home late. Then, one day, she found a long dark hair in the bathroom. That was the last straw. She worked herself up so much that she barely slept, constantly checking if Misha was beside her. Desperate, she went to visit her old friend Galina, bringing a bottle of wine. She burst into tears the moment she stepped through the door. Galina listened carefully and said, "Why are you torturing yourself? Just check on him like they do in those reality shows. Install cameras in the house and tell him you're going on a business trip. Then come here, we'll watch everything." Angela's tears dried up instantly. She threw her arms around Galina. "You're brilliant. That'll expose him for sure. I'm going home to get ready." Everything went according to plan. Angela packed her bags and told Misha she was going away. He asked multiple times when exactly she'd be back, offered to pick her up from the train station, and even drove her there himself. "Don't worry. Take care of work. You trust me, don't you?" he asked, looking into her eyes. She looked away. "Of course, my love," she said. But in her mind she thought, he's definitely planning to bring some young thing home. That's why he kept asking when I'd be back. Too sweet, too relaxed. She rushed to Galina's place. They eagerly watched the monitor. Sure enough, a few hours later, Misha brought a woman home.
But to Angela's shock, she wasn't young at all. She was old, disheveled, unkempt. Misha helped her out of her coat, gave her his favorite tiger-printed towel, and she disappeared into the bathroom. Angela was furious. What a scumbag. I gave him everything, and he brings some old hag into my house. If it were a young woman, at least I'd understand, but this wreck? No way. I'll tear her hair out, she screamed, storming out. She burst into the house. Got you, lovebirds. You'll pay for this, she shouted, charging at the woman. The woman recoiled in fear. Misha grabbed Angela by the shoulders, trying to calm her down. You've got it all wrong. Let me explain, he stammered. But Angela was unstoppable. She slapped him across the face. Explain? The moment I'm gone, you bring your mistress here. Shame on you. Misha had no choice. He threw a glass of water at her. Angela froze, shocked. Calm down and listen. This is my mother, Yekaterina Smirnova. I just found her. I was afraid to tell you, and I was right. You've lost your mind with jealousy. Either you trust me, or we're done. Angela collapsed onto a stool, sobbing. She had ruined everything. How could she fix this? Misha took his mother back to the shelter. Don't be mad at your wife, his mother told him. She's wrong, but it's only because she loves you. Maybe you two should have a baby, it would bring you closer. A year later, after returning from a vacation, Misha and Angela laughed as they told his mother. Well, Grandma, get ready. You didn't raise a son, but now you'll get another chance. A grandson is on the way. Only then did Angela truly understand this was real happiness.